Hey guys, and welcome to month 2 of Organize and Design. This is the note-taking portion of it. So this is not by any means a requirement. It's an extension to our club. But if you're super interested in learning more about organization and especially about design, you'll want to follow along. So you have bookmarked our note-taking sheet. You're going to want to go to page 4, and ideally, if you can, we would want to print this because we'd be writing on it and drawing on it. It's going to be a little hard to do that on the computer, but otherwise, just follow along too. As long as you understand the information, that's really what we're going for here. But yeah, we are starting on page 4 of our interior design note-taking sheet. So we are going to be discussing traffic patterns and floor plans. So let's get started. What is a floor plan? So a floor plan is a 2D drawing, and it's like the bird's eye view. So when I say bird's eye view, it means like I'm looking from the top down at something. So that is what a floor plan could look like. In our home, we have different zones, okay? So there are work zones, social zones, private zones. So let's chat more about what does that mean? So a work zone would be places where you kind of do tasks. So definitely for me, the kitchen. This is where if I am not working, I am in the kitchen a lot, right? Making food, cleaning up after dinner, making sure that everybody has food in their tummies and is growing and happy and healthy. Laundry room would also be part of that, office areas. So technically where I am right now would be considered a work zone. But it's also, hold on guys, what's going on here? We'll switch back to, it's also a social zone. So we're going to get back to that in just a minute. Hold that thought. We'll come back. Okay? So when we're in what's called a work zone, especially in the kitchen, you'll probably hear this a lot. It's called a working triangle. So there are 3 things that I use in my kitchen the most, and that would be the refrigerator, right, where all that food is stored, the oven or stove, and the sink, right? It's kind of like you go from one to the other to make sure all the things get cooked and stored properly and cleaned up, and we're using those a lot. So it works well if those are in sort of a triangle, so you can very easily go like here, okay, and then here, and then over there, and you're working between them. It causes good flow. Now, every kitchen or workspace doesn't always have that great flow to it. It doesn't have that perfect triangle. In fact, I would say in my kitchen, the number 1 spot in our house that causes issue is actually in our kitchen, and it is because of one of these 3 points of my triangle. That is not really a triangle. I guess it kind of is. It's a terrible triangle. But if you can imagine, like when we're looking at these, this is the refrigerator here. I want you to imagine that this counter came out right like to there, so that there's barely enough space to even open the refrigerator. And if the refrigerator is open, nobody can walk through it. Okay, so like in my house, this is a problem area. Now my house is super old, it's almost 100 years old, and if I wanted to fix this issue, I mean, we'd be talking a huge renovation, and it would cost like multiple tens of thousands of dollars. Like I'm gonna guess it would be probably a $50,000 renovation, and we're just, it's annoying, not $50,000 annoying. I don't have that kind of money to be spending on that. So, but it is a good thing to understand this concept, because if you ever were redesigning a home and trying to make sure that the flow works well, or, designing one that's being built, these are good things to consider so that people like me, almost 100 years after this house was built, don't come in and go, well, this is terrible. Literally, we cannot walk from one part of our house. We can't access the whole other part of the house if somebody is trying to grab food out of the refrigerator, which I know it seems like, well, no big deal, just close the door. There's 5 humans living in my house, and The 3 tiny ones eat all the time. So like, I cannot tell you how many times I'm like, I gotta get to that side, guys. Refrigerator, close it. If only the people who were designing my kitchen back in the day, if only they had known this. Should have, would have, could have, I guess. Anyway, good information to know. Okay, so then we've got these social zones, right? Entryways, living rooms, family rooms, dining rooms, multi-purpose rooms, recreation rooms. So like where we all just hang out, right? Where we spend our time together. That's what the social zones are. And sometimes these intermix, right? Like for example, social zone is behind me, yet this is my work zone. So like this little corner has become my work zone. So how do we merge those things? Well, in my instance, I don't know if you guys are going to be able to see this, okay. My work zone is actually inside a cabinet. And so when I'm done working, bye. See ya. I closed the doors. I quickly learned after beginning this job where I'm working from home, I quickly learned that it was a stress on my social life having my work zone such a big part of my social zone, right? Like this is where we hang out, and yet I was constantly looking at my computer monitor and seeing, oh, there's an email, I better just go message, I better go respond to that. And I never had like an off time. It was always on. I was always in work mode too. So I decided to purchase this cabinet, and when I'm done with my work for the day, I close my work zone, and now it's social zone. So that I have found to be very helpful, and I bet that there are a lot of people, I mean, you guys probably have a similar situation, right? Like, how do we balance when we are learning from home? How do we balance work versus social, and making sure that our life and our zones are balanced out, right? Because we need to have that balance in our life. Anyway, then we also have those private zones, and once again, your work zone might be part of your private room, or private zone, sorry, if you have, maybe your desk is in your bedroom, right? Like, so once again, these can kind of intermix, and we have to find ways for it to function well for us. So bedrooms, bathrooms, things like that, where we're like, I want to close this door, I just need a little time to myself. Those would be considered our private zones. So if you want to be filling this in that worksheet, if you haven't yet, once again, feel free, rewind, pause as much as you need to as we're going through all of this, or just listen in and soak it all up, right? Understand it within your being, within your core. So when laying out a floor plan, you got to consider these zones and the activities that take place in those zones. Quiet and private zones should be separated from the noisy and public ones. So like, for example, when we first moved into this house, once again, it's quite old. There's not a lot of soundproofing in it, but we actually considered this room here potentially being a master bedroom instead of, because there isn't really one up in the upstairs area. So we're like, oh, this would be kind of nice, but then it would be very noisy because it's right next to like the kitchen and the dining room, and so we didn't really think that that was a very smart idea. So instead we decided, okay, all the private zone, like bedrooms and bathroom, we're going to keep those all upstairs so that we've got that separation between the noisy areas and the areas where we just need to maybe chill and relax sometimes and have some like meditation, peace of mind, as infrequently as that happens in my life. Every now and again it's necessary, right? So traffic patterns, if you're looking a little further down on that worksheet, it starts to talk about traffic patterns, and feel free to like color stuff in and draw things in on that sheet of paper if you did print it out. So traffic patterns are the repeatedly used walking paths from one room or area to an area. We need them, right? Like we need to be able to get from one place to another. Maybe you've even seen like commercials or like videos or shows about like hoarders. Even in a hoarding situation, we need to be able to move from one space to another. Now, hopefully, taking this club helps us to alleviate some of those tendencies. Like, I know even for myself, I love things clean. I love them organized. But man, stuff is fun, right? Like sometimes it's special. And so it can be easy to like kind of hoard stuff. And for some people that can become problematic. but we still have to be able to walk from space to space. So we always will have a traffic pattern, no matter how open or how narrow it is. There's always traffic patterns. Now, ideally for good, healthy living, as far as like feeling comfortable in our space and not feeling cramped and crowded, we want more of an open traffic pattern that we can like feel like we can walk without having to be like this going through the space, right? Like maybe we hold the hand of a sibling or whatever, and there's some space for us to be able to move from one place to another freely. And it's an important part of the space planning too. You don't want people bumping into each other as they're going from like one space to another. I know in my house, once again, I told you about the one problem area, right? Going from the kitchen to the living room. But we also have another space where it's like it's two corners next to each other at once. And so sometimes in our house, it'll be like people are coming around both those corners and it's like, oh, sorry. Yep. Okay. And like, I always am nervous about my kids both running. I always tell them no running in that area because otherwise they're smash their heads together. So once again, it's just things we got to plan out. And once the house is built, obviously there's only so much we can do, but you can help by arranging furniture in different ways to help make for a better flow and experience as you are maneuvering around a home. So you can see the traffic pattern in here. Most people move throughout the home every day, usually walking in the shortest distance possible, right? We don't want to necessarily be walking like the long way around. We want to get there as quickly as possible between 2 points. So these walkways are referred to as traffic patterns, circulation, or traffic flow. So you can kind of see, if we're looking at the diagram here, like how that might look when you come on in, and then, okay, we could choose to go to the living room, or to the kitchen, or to the dining room, or around to the bathroom, or into the bedroom, okay? So, just kind of shows us what that might look like. Traffic patterns, we've got the service circulation, so as far as like, if we're, like for me, cooking and stuff, like how does that look like when I'm trying to get things to here and there, what things that need to be different places, that work circulation, family circulation, guest circulation. A lot of times, like when guests come over, they might not, they're probably not going to go to all the different spaces in our house. I know usually if we're like, guests are coming and the house isn't quite clean, we usually, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm going to give you guys all my dirty secrets here. We'll like throw everything that isn't like, oh my gosh, we don't have time to clean this. Oh no. We pick it up and we put it in the guest bedroom. I don't know what we're going to do. Pretty soon that guest bedroom is actually going to be my son's bedroom. And then we're not going to have a guest bedroom to put things in. And help us. I don't even know what's going to happen then. We're just going to have to be better about having everything clean all the time. So service circulation, how many people move in and out of the house to make deliveries, maintain appliances, and take out the garbage, like all those things that like have to happen, okay? And these don't have to be like other people necessarily. Like for me, I do a lot of the stuff myself. My husband does a lot of the stuff ourselves. Like very rarely do we have somebody like come in to help with anything. It's only the stuff that we really don't know how to do. So, the things that we're just kind of always like, okay, I got to make sure this happens and this happens. Work circulation includes how people move in the kitchen, dining areas, that kitchen triangle, once again. You're going to hear all about that. And from the bedrooms to the utility room are like places that, like bathrooms, stuff like that. So tips, no cross traffic should be allowed to interfere with work circulation. Kitchen and dining area should be adjacent to each other. Ideally, like you don't want to have to go from the kitchen through a bathroom, through a bedroom to get to the dining room. Like that would be terrible flow, right? So we want like the place that you make the food should be close to like where you eat the food, ideally, without having to go through other spaces. Just like how you usually want to have like bedrooms by bathrooms. If you're lucky enough to have like nice big closets too, we don't in our house, but we've got small little ones, so yay. But if you've got like those separate spaces, maybe like you've got places to store extra linens or extra clothing, that's like not in season. Hopefully that's kind of next to living or bedroom spaces as well. So just kind of like thinking through all those things, like how does that flow? Family circulation includes travel between bedrooms and bathrooms. Once again, the foyers in the living room. Foyer is like an entryway, just a fancy word for that in case you're like, what is this? Foyers and bedroom areas, living rooms and patios, living rooms and dining rooms. So once again, like those places that our family all kind of like hang out together. All right, so tips for that. Room should not be cut in half by traffic pattern. So like once again, you wouldn't want it to be like right down the center, going through it. High frequency routes are short and simple. Related rooms are close together, like we talked about, and that the bathroom is located close to the bedrooms, right? Especially if you've got little kids like me that like wake up in the middle of the night and have to go to the bathroom. So those kind of things make life just easier. Like imagine if your kitchen was over there and you had to go through the bedroom, through a closet, through a bathroom in order to get to the dining room. Like it just makes life so much more complicated, right? So we want to have that good flow to our traffic pattern. And then once again, guest circulation includes from the entryway to the coat closet, to the entry to the living room, and from the living room to the bathroom, because guests have to use the restroom as well, right? So tips for that involve movement from the entry to coat closet into the living room with access to a bathroom. And once again, like you guys in my house, that's not how it works. It's an old house. My entryway is here. I do have some little pegs people can put their coats on in the wintertime. The socializing space is right here, so that's good. But my bathroom, they're gonna have to walk through the dining room, through the kitchen, and into a back hallway to get there. Honestly, I'm just happy to have a bathroom on my first floor now, because the first like 5 or 6 years that we lived in this house, we didn't even have a bathroom on the first floor. Now it's it used to be a closet. It was 4 by 4 feet, and we've got a guest half bathroom on the first floor. So sometimes, like this is like, if we're designing it from scratch, these are things we want to think of. But that's not how it's always going to work. And sometimes we just have to make the best out of what we have, right? And we make do. Now, when our guests come over, do they often ask, like, where's your bathroom? And I have to, like, answer. I usually leave the light on. I tell people, follow the light. It's over there. So we just got to do our best, and it's okay. All right. And then ideally, guests should not need to cross or, like, go through, like, work areas or private areas. Like, you shouldn't have to go through the bedroom to get to a bathroom, or go through a bathroom to get to the dining room, right? Like that would be strange and awkward. So ideally we can avoid those situations with our planning. And in here we can just kind of see an example of good versus bad flow and traffic pattern. So feel free to pause the screen if you want to take a little closer look. But you can see one's like just much more busy and there's like stuff in the way. You'd be coming in like, oh, okay, nope, going this way and through things we don't want to be going through. So just having that good flow is going to be helpful, and like an understanding of like, okay, I go through this door to get here, that there aren't like a million. Oh, actually I have a great example of this, you guys. So I wish I could show you some of the stuff that we've done to our house. We've been here for a long time now, over a decade, well over a decade. But when we first bought our house, so weird. So you'd come in through the garage door, okay? So you come in through the garage door after you're pulling in, and it's like a little narrow hallway, and that's where that bathroom, that little half bathroom now is. Like you open the door, and actually if the bathroom door is open, you hit the bathroom door. Once again, not great, but we deal with it. But you would walk forward in this hallway, and there was another door, okay? Well, if you opened that door, guess what it led to? The front entryway. Why? What is going? It was so strange. And then, of course, there was like the door also that goes to the kitchen. So what we ended up doing to make it a better like flow and traffic was we actually closed that off, and we made it like a little locker area where you could hang up coats on the one side, and then on the other side we made it a little closet area, because we're just like, we need to have more closet space in an old house, and why would you just walk from there to there? It didn't make any sense. It was strange. So we fixed that, and it was an easy fix, pretty quick fix. Just put up a board, make it into a little locker area on the one side, and on the other side it was like the back wall of the closet where the door was. So anyway, interesting stuff. Things to think about. Entertaining. How do guests travel to the living room when you're entertaining? How do they have to go through private areas of your house? Like, do they? Hopefully not. Like, ideally that would be when we're designing a space. We wouldn't have that happening. How do they get to the bathroom? Once again, like, we all have to use the bathroom, right? It is what it is. How are they going to get there? Is it easy enough for them to find? And is the kitchen handy for serving guests when you're entertaining? Children in the home. Okay, you guys, obviously you don't have your own children yet, but you are children. You probably have siblings or maybe cousins or friends or whoever. People come over. So things to think about. When you come home from school or work or activities or the park or whatever, do you go directly to your room? Do you head for the living room or the family room? Do you bring home friends to play outside, indoor games, watch movies? If you have a pool, do you have them go through the entire house to use the bathroom, which would drip water the whole way? Or even like, we do not have a pool. But when we have our friends have kids, when our kids have friends over, there we go. That's how I'm trying to say that. Like a lot of times we'll put out the sprinkler or things like that. So then I'll tell my kids and their friends they cannot come through the back door. They have to come through the garage door, because that's where that little tiny downstairs bathroom is. Because otherwise they'd be going all the way through the living room, through the kitchen, back down. Like, they'd have to make this kind of shape to come back, and they'd be dripping water the whole way and leaving like grass clippings, and we don't want that. So then I make them go through a different way in that situation. So just things to think about, right? Like, how does that all work together? All right, things to think about with the flow in the kitchen. Can the cook prepare a meal without worrying about constantly walking into somebody walking by? Once again, this is a problem in our house. We often, you guys have maybe heard the saying before, we will often say to our family, too many cooks in the kitchen. Okay, in our kitchen, we have realized it's a small space. It does not have good flow. So 2 is kind of like the maximum. Whenever it's like work time in the kitchen, 2 is the max. Otherwise, we're tripping over each other, and it's just not safe, right? It's not just that it's annoying. That's not safe anymore, because we've got knives and there's heat and there's, boiling water, and that's not safe then. If people can eat in their rooms or the living area, can they get there without leaving a trail throughout the entire house? If you spend a lot of time grilling outside, is it convenient to get from the kitchen to that outdoor grilling area? Can you bring groceries right in from the outside, from wherever you park your car, without having to go through a bunch of rooms? Once again, all things just to think about as we design any spaces. So hopefully that gives you a little insight as to what goes into when you're building or designing a space, how to think about where everything should be placed, to give it just when you walk in, that you can be okay, I understand how to walk from here to there, and there aren't things in the way that are maybe confusing, or we're bumping into people or furniture and stuff like that, just to cause that nice flow that gives us that feeling when we walk into that space. Hope you guys learned a lot. Don't forget, for this month, our challenge is the clothing challenge. So definitely make sure that for this one we're coming to the club and learning more about that clothing challenge. And also don't forget, when you are done with the clothing challenge, to add your photos, your before and after photos, to the slides for the competition. And yeah, I can't wait to see how everybody's home life is improving because of our little club we have together. We'll see you guys next time.